Hello everyone and welcome to Handmade Hero, the show where we code a complete game live on stream. And we are on our last day of 4coder coding. We were going to try and switch to a new editor. We're going to try that next week. And so what we're doing is we're doing our customizations for it. For those of you who have not been here all week, the editor that we're going to try to switch for is one that was actually made by someone from the Handmade Hero chat. Alan Webster made this editor, 4coder. Which you can actually subscribe to on Patreon and get builds of it if you want to be a patron of it. And yeah, you can see me using it in just a few moments here. So where we left off is we don't really have much left to do. There are a couple of things that seem to be problems that we can't necessarily address that we sort of kicked off to Alan, but there's a bunch of things that we could address. We addressed them all, and then there's still a few left over that we could probably still address, and so that's what we're going to look at today. So if you take a look at where we were at, there's one thing we didn't quite finish writing, which was this find corresponding file. And we need to do that. There's our make without asking, which we still don't really know exactly how to do. Like, we may have to ask Alan. We don't know how to save a buffer, tell a buffer to save itself. We're not sure how to do that exactly. One way may be to switch to the buffer, then execute regular save and then switch back or something. I'm not sure, but it seems like there should be a way to save a buffer, and if we could do that, that would probably be the best thing there, right? And then there's a certain line, and I guess I should probably just make this line explicit. There's basically a line that's probably right about here. Where everything below this line probably isn't possible yet. So these are things where 4coder isn't quite far enough along for us to do it. So query replace in region, and imenu, and the macro recording. Those are things that actually require some functionality that's really not available to us in the extension API yet, as far as I know. So query replace is probably something Alan will just add because every editor has query replace. So we probably won't have to actually do this one. We'll probably be able to just delete it and use the 4coder built-in one at some point. Replace in region is one where it takes the mark and the point and only does the replace inside that area, right? And again, that's something that we can probably just use a built-in 4coder function for at some point soon. But we can't implement either of these ourselves, even though we have access to the buffer. And the reason for that is we have no way of prompting the user for input. So we wouldn't be able to ask them what the thing is to replace, like what the phrase to replace and what to replace it with. So that's something that we would have to wait at least until that for us to implement it ourselves. But also probably that will just be in 4coder, so there's that. We then have the imenu, and imenu in Emacs is a thing where if you just hit the imenu button, it lists all the functions that are in a file, and then you can jump to it. And that's pretty handy, so I can just type oh, I wanted to jump to parse number, and then there I am, you know. So that's pretty handy. I do not know what that just did. Don't want to know what that did. What did that do? I don't know. Oh, Emacs. I'm going to be so happy when you're gone. So anyway, we don't have a way to do imenu for the same reason. I could write a thing that parses the buffer and tries to figure out what the functions are in it. That we can do right now, but what I can't do is then present any kind of a tab completable sort of menu to the user where they could input one of those functions and then jump to it. So that's, again, sort of a situation where we're going to have to wait for some functionality before we can actually do anything about it. Keyboard macros are obviously have to be tied into the core for the same reasons. So pretty much these 6 functions are things that we got to wait for Alan to do. Then these guys up here are all functions that I think we can do, and we've implemented most of them. So we've got a bunch of things here that we did. For example, we have open in other, which opens a thing in the other window. We have a thing that cleans all the lines and then saves. We have the thing that opens our to-do thing, although there was some kind of a bug in this where we were to-do, Casey, it doesn't seem to properly load the file if it's not already loaded. So there's something weird with that. I thought didn't we had, oh, Casey load to do, Casey open to do is like the old one. Did we do something wonky here? Because this is what was going on. This is like some kind of weird old school code right here. I think we may have accidentally, let's take a look at what happens with load to do. I think we may have accidentally done something stupid there. Let's find out. All right. I don't know that we actually want any of this to happen either. In this map ID global, I guess we want Z, X, maybe we still want T, I don't know. I don't know if we want these or not. We'll have to think about that. But I'm going to compile this and see now if we actually use load to do, what happens there. Because that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to take a look at this. This will comment out for the moment. But we have to figure out how to do that as well, which we don't know how to do. And I'm going to comment out this at the moment as well. Okay. So now let's see if maybe that was the problem with we were calling the wrong function because we had an old one in there and forgot to get rid of it. And I just named them poorly. So let's just take a look at what happens with those right now. So if I do in here, try to do something, I don't know, let's load a file, readme. I go into modal mode and I hit T. It looks like nothing happens. So let's see. Let's take a look at that. Let's see. Load to do. So that should have executed Casey load to do, right? But it didn't, and we don't know why. Or at least I don't know why. Let's go ahead and step in. Let's find out. Let's find out what's going on. I feel like I should be able to do msdev of 4ed and just have this guy what? Open this project. I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to open the executable. What is it even saying? My license has gone stale? How is it? What is stale about it? I don't even know what that means. Okay. So, I feel like a story might be in order here. I should mention that we are using the community edition of Visual Studio rather than the 2012 actual professional edition that I own. We're using the community edition, of course, because we want people to be able to program on their own at home, and we wanted to make sure that we were all using the same versions and people can access this version for free. And for some reason, and I don't really know why, at one point, a Microsoft developer evangelist emailed me and was like, I saw Handmade Hero and really liked the show, and we were wondering if you wanted to switch to using like Visual Studio something or other where the code is like managed up on their server or something like this. But anyway, just wanted to say love the show, and of course we wish you use Visual Studio more on the show. I guess more than the debugger, like to edit the code or something like that. And I replied to this email, and I said, why do you want me to use Visual Studio more? I was like, what? You know, I realize you're a developer evangelist, so you're supposed to say that even if there's no, but like, what do you actually think would have been improved if I used this more. And they never wrote back. So I don't actually know what their thought process was on why they wanted me to use more Visual Studio. But I can tell you why I don't like using Visual Studio for anything, and why I try to avoid it wherever possible. And this pretty much applies to all Microsoft software. It's this kind of nonsense. Like, I am trying to be productive right now. This is not productive. The only thing that this does is serves Microsoft's greedy interests of making sure that everybody obeys whatever crazy, ridiculous licensing scheme they have concocted. Which is extra amazing considering the fact that this is a free program that they are trying to get people to use instead of, for example, Clang or something. Why is this acceptable? Why do they consider it acceptable to interrupt somebody's workday to basically become a self-reporting arm of Microsoft's licensing division? It's not acceptable. The same thing happens with Windows and all these other products where it's like, all of a sudden, it's my problem and it's my job to deal with their ridiculous licensing schemes. I like paying for software. I like paying for software when I can buy it and install it on my machine and never talk to the person who made it again. But this is like the opposite of that. It's awful. The same thing was true of Autodesk. I used to like purchasing 3D software packages. Now I will only use Blender. Why? Because I spent so many whole days lost because of Autodesk's ridiculous DRM, trying to, like, just when you move a machine or change the amount of memory in a machine or something, you end up losing whole work days trying to get the software running again for no reason other than their ridiculous licensing schemes. It's not acceptable. So, what exactly do we do now? I don't know what this has decided is the problem. I do not know why there is a problem retrieving user information for me, or why they are even trying to do that. Like, this product was installed on my machine. How about you, like, respect my privacy and don't phone home all the time to see what's going on? Is that really such a hard thing to ask for? Apparently not. God. So let's see, will it actually let us debug something? I don't know. I don't even know what that dialog box was supposed to be telling me. I'm guessing that the answer is no, because this looks like the shutdown. So when it says save changes, I assume, it doesn't matter whether I save changes or not. But we'll find out in a second here. All right, sure, save changes. Great. And now we're closed. So I guess that's that. Not really sure what we do to actually step into Debugger. I guess one thing we could do we have WinDBG on this machine? I don't actually know. I feel like we probably would have had WinDBG on this machine, but we could download Windows Debugger, I suppose. So yeah, the coda to that is, if you want people to actually use your products and, like, not be so grumpy about them, actually have them run. That's just something you could do. The Visual Studio team right now could actually make their product better by actually just having it run. That would have been an improvement over not having it run, which makes it hard to use. Just in case that was unclear, but apparently it is unclear to some people. Like, they don't really understand the fact that when a piece of software doesn't run, you can't actually do anything with it. But that's actually a true story. So let's try running the old version that was on this machine originally. That's an actual licensed version from way, 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 way back when. Let's see if that does anything. I guess I don't know where that's installed, but I could probably find out relatively easily. Program files, Microsoft, Visual Studio, Common 7, IDE. Shouldn't it be in here? I feel like it should have been in there. Oh, maybe it wasn't 7 though. Let's see. Of course, there's so many of these. It's going to be on program files x86 because it's not 64-bit, right? All right. Program files x86. And I don't know, maybe 9, let's say? Because I think the other 2 were the community edition ones. And this is the only actual one, if I remember correctly. Don't really remember, but I think that's true. devenv.exe. There we go. All right, so let's try this. devenv.exe. And let's try that. All right. Yeah, that's fine with me. So here we are in 4coder, and we can go ahead and run. Hey, look at that. If we go back far enough, we can actually get a Microsoft piece of software that still runs. What do you know? All right, so now that we're back here, let's go back to what we were trying to do before, which is to see what was happening with our to-do, which I don't actually know why it wasn't working. So we'll see if we can figure out why. So if I just hit the T key right now, nothing seems to happen. So I don't know if it's actually calling KC load to do or not, but that would be a good thing for us to try and figure out. I'm going to see if I can open up the breakpoints window here. Debug Windows breakpoints, and there we go. There. So when I'm hitting this, am I getting called? So I am getting called. So if we come in here, we don't really care about this. Let's see. We look to see where the buffer exists. It doesn't. So then we look to see if creative not found. OK, so we're not setting creative not found anymore. So we were in the middle of that edit. So that's all. This is just us not remembering, or I should say me, not remembering where we were. So that's not too bad at the end of the day. So creative not found, when we call switch to or load file, in this case, we do want it to create the file if it can't find it, I guess. Well, you know what? I don't even know if that's true or not, but just in this case, I suppose we want to do it just for testing purposes. Then we push the parameter on and we do the interactive open. Yeah. But I think most of the time we would want to, because if the to-do file didn't exist, we'd still want to create one to store our to-dos. So that actually does seem probably like the correct thing to do regardless. So, all right, let's take a look at that now. We'll run it, and then I'll hit the T key. So we come in here and we... well, I guess I should probably see if it actually loads. So it looks like it loaded something not what it should have loaded. That doesn't look quite right. So let's see what's actually happening there. Get a little bit more specific there. All right, so we know the buffer doesn't exist. What's the file name right now? The file name is totally garbage. So I guess this is not actually an allowed syntax for make fixed with string, which probably makes some sense because passing the string literal in like that probably makes make fixed with string, probably has a trouble doing that. Although, well, let's actually figure out what that macro does, make fixed with string, and see why that's having a problem, because that's probably something that's just worth knowing, right? Make fixed with string is here. So really it just does a size of on whatever the string is. I feel like that should have worked, though, right? Like why didn't that? Let's just take a look at what happens there. Because I just want to figure out what the deal is with this. So let's take a look at that in a little more detail. And I'm going to set the breakpoint right there. All right, so we call into here, and here is to do file name. So it looks like the problem there is that this size field, I guess maybe this function does something different. It definitely takes the size of the thing, but assumes it's 0. So make fixed with string must be for making an empty string out of a buffer, not for actually making a string out of a constant. So I think that was just my bad at not understanding what was supposed to happen with that, right? So it's probably make lit string that's probably what's actually, well, even in that case though, why it's setting the size to -1, I don't know. I guess because, hey, that'll still work, but it wouldn't need to, right? The size of is just this still, for a string literal. So I'll call that for now, but I don't really know that's so necessary. But well, I guess we'll find out. So let's just go ahead and put that in here. Here's make lit string, and that's the to-do.txt. So I'm going to rebuild and see if that fixes our problem, which I suspect it will. So let's call t, and to-do file name, yeah, that's now correct. Size is 25. Although, how did that, if the size was -1, how did it... Oh, that's great. That's just me being awful at reading. It's size of stir -1. I, for some reason, was looking at that as just a cast for some reason, and I was just looking at the -1, and I was like, what's going on? Okay, so that's exactly what I would have expected. All right, never mind. So that's all good, and now we're presumably going to be able to load our file okay, and we'll find out. Yeah, okay. So now that seems right. That's like working. There's our to-do. That's what we wanted, so that's all great. And then the other thing I can do now, in theory, is if I was in some other, like, let's say I loaded something else here, and I want to switch to the to-do buffer, I should be able to just do so. That comes into here again. It wouldn't load it again, it just switches to it. So that's great. I think pretty much everything's good there. Yeah. Still that, I obviously already mentioned the bug about inserting characters into there. So we should probably start making a list of these so we can send them to Alan definitively instead of just mentioning on the stream, which is not the most useful way for him to get bugs in there. So I suppose what we should probably do is say, okay, like here in 4coder, let's go ahead and say that in 4coder kc.h, although I guess, do I even need a 4coder kc.h? Probably not, because I don't think I have a 4coder kc.h. Yeah, I don't. So let's go ahead and say that that's not true. We'll just put it up here. To do kc, here are our current issues. So we have a problem where when hitting a modal key that goes into the mini buffer, that key is still inserted as a character in the mini buffer. So that's definitely happening at the moment. Okay. And we'll just put our other issues up there as we run into them. All right, so that's all good, and I think that's can just be considered fine. But now we have this problem of we want to load all these guys. These make fixed with strings, all of those are wrong. So basically anywhere that we were saying make fixed with string, I think we really wanted make lit string. Right? That's what we actually wanted to do this whole time. So we just want to clean that out because I don't think there's anywhere where we actually wanted that to happen. Right? Yeah. Okay. So that'll load all the stuff in our... Oh, gotta close this. That'll load all the stuff in our Handmade code directory, in theory, when we call this guy. And I think we mostly have that working as well, right? So if we went in here and called that... Oh, wait. There we go. Now we go in here and call that. Probably need to bind it to a key as well, since we don't have a way to call functions directly. So load not bound to anything. So let's bind that to 2 for the moment. And I guess we'll put this up here. Frequently used functions won't need key bindings, right? So now if I want to, I should be able to hit 2 for that, although it occurs to me that that's only if you actually have a coding buffer open at the time, because that's the way I did the key binding. So really, we probably also want these guys to be bound to the sort of the default state, right? So probably want to do it here as well, like bind context. If I hit 2, in this case, I'm going to call KC load handmade. That seems like a reasonable idea. And then here, when we want to start handmading, we can hit 2, and maybe that works, but maybe it doesn't. Does not appear to. So did I do something wrong there? Let's find out. Did it load? So it goes in here. So when we do switch to our load file, and we come in here, that is not a very good looking string, though, I would say. So I don't know what's going on there. That's not looking good. So why did that happen? Let's see if we can find out why that happened. Because obviously we're not going to load very many files if that's what we're passing. So let's take a look here. We go to disassembly and see what happens. So make lit string, it calls make string, and make string is what exactly? Make string is something that takes the size, the mem size, and the pointer. Oh. All right, so that makes sense why that doesn't work. At least I can understand a potential explanation for why it wouldn't work. So since that gets wrapped in a call, at that point you're in the situation where it can go away after the call, right? So, you know, if we're trying to call a function with it, in this case, right? In this case, we're trying to call a function, and we pass the string here. It looks like we're going to be able to keep this because it's a macro, but it's not really a macro. It still ends up calling a function in here, which means that technically this string doesn't have to exist anymore outside of it, I assume. I don't feel like that should have been a problem because string literals are generally kept outside in the data, so I'm not sure why that would actually happen in practice. So let me keep going a little further just to see what might be going wrong in case that's a erroneous assumption, because it doesn't seem like that should really happen anyway. So we call make string here, and I assume make string actually returns a string. I don't know if that's true. Yeah, it does. So if I was to look at that, I'm not sure. So looking at the return value, and I don't know if you guys saw what I did there. I don't think I've ever done this on Handmade Hero before, but on x64 architecture, when you call a function, so when assembly language, when you issue a call, right, and you're calling into a function, the return value is put in EAX, assuming it fits, right? So what I did is I said, hey, the address that's in EAX must point to the thing that I'm getting back, right? And so I went ahead and did that. You can't always count on that. That just happened to be some shorthand. Anyway, so point being, in this particular case, that wasn't what actually happened because I happen to have a situation where this thing is bigger than can fit in a register. So in this case, I believe EAX gets set to the pointer that points to the thing that it's going to fill out, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, point being, in here, we seem to have gotten the correct information. So there's our build.bat. We do have a size of 9, and we have a memory size of 10, and all of that is correct for our string. So now, what I don't know is what any of this stuff is doing. I don't understand why it's doing a rep mobs. What are we copying here before we call switch to or load file? I'm not really sure. Is it just copying the string? Is it copying this onto? Probably that's what's happening. Let's find out. So RSI, byte pointer RDI, but I don't know what those are actually pointing to. So that's what's happening. So that's just copying our string onto the stack, right? So it's copying this so that it can basically you can basically call the function that it's about to call. So let's take a look at what happens after we actually do that, and we want to call into here. I'm guessing that that must have somehow been a problem. I don't actually know. Go to source code. Because when we come in here, file name is definitely not that string that we constructed, which was obviously correct. It's totally a different string, right? And I'm not sure why that is. So if I pop back out here, I think I'm going to have to just actually power through and see exactly what it did wrong. I must be missing something simple. But hey, I couldn't tell you what it was. So we know we get our string back properly from here. This is not particularly relevant for what we're doing. So now we're going to load up the copy, and then we're going to say that we're going to try and copy 10 hex. That's probably the size of the string structure. In fact, I can verify that, right? Yeah. So that's all good. So we do that, and then we do this copy of RDI RSI, right? So after that's over, I probably should have saved what that pointer was. If I was smart, I would have done that. So I could have looked what happened after the rep. Because it went from here to the other one. I guess I can just back it up to where it was, right? So like RSI minus 16 is where we were going from, and RDI minus 16 is where it was going to. So I can just sort of say, hey, show me what the string looks like at this location. And so it performed the copy correctly. So here's the copy that we actually now have. That's all happy and fun. And I'll just go ahead and actually just snap this address here directly. So I can say, okay, OX73EEG00. So now we're watching that guy. So we know that's the one that we had. Let's sort of step through here. What this other rep mobs is, I don't know, because I'm not sure what else. There's nothing else to get past here, right? I mean, what does switch to or load file need that it would need to have? Let's find out. Custom. Let's see. 4coder custom.h. Let's go ahead and see what we would have here in custom command sig. So, but that's not what it is. It's switch to or load file. I mean, all it's passing is 2 pointers, that struct, and then the Boolean, right? So I'm not sure what it's copying, but it loaded out of RCX, it loaded into RSI. I don't know what is in there. I don't know what it's trying to copy, but let's see what it does. Okay, so it did a copy from RSI to RDI of 10 again. Did it just literally copy the thing twice? It looks like it copied it twice. I guess maybe the first time it copied out. It's probably because of the expanded macro. The first time it copied it out from the make string, and the second time it's copying it to pass it to switch to our load file, I guess. So hey, whatever floats your boat. All right, so it did a copy to RDI again, so RDI minus 16, that's the location of it. So we should be able to check and say, okay, well, what's the string star at 73EFC0? And hey, it's totally correct, right? So now we come in here, we get ready to dispatch to our call. We do the call, and here we are in the actual call, right? And so when we're going to start using this stuff, what we should be able to do is say, where exactly is file name, right? And file name is at 73EECC0, which was definitely not something we ever copied to. Am I right? That because we copied it, we copied one to C0 EEFC0, right? I mean, it looks like it's just straight up wrong to me. We copied one to there rather, and one to there. Those are the two locations that we actually created copies for. So that just looks straight up wrong. I guess that means we hit a compiler bug, unless that can't be. Did we really hit a compiler bug? If we hit a compiler bug, Microsoft's having a great stream today. First, their IDE doesn't load, and now their compiler produced erroneous code. So that's pretty fantastic as well. But that looks like it's just creating garbage to me. So when it actually puts these on the stack, let's see, XOR RD, yeah. So here we're actually loading app, we're loading command context, right? So this must be the string, RSP plus 330, right? That's got to be it. It must be passing the bool is just here, and it's passing false, right? So here's where it passes the false. Here's where it loads the other two parameters. So that's our guy, right, in R8. And we should be able to verify that. So let's rerun it again. Here we go. So let's go to the disassembly. We'll run through here, and we'll get ready to do this. So let's see. We do our first rep stas b. I'm sorry, rep mov s. We do our first rep mov at RDI minus 16. So we did it there. I don't know why I can't cut and paste. I just want to cut and paste that. So that's string star OX73ED00. And then we do our next one at string star OX73EEFC0. So we've got our two copies of the string. Both of those are good. We create our false. We then load into our R8 RSP plus 310H, right? And that is just well, no, that's right. So there it is, 73EEFC0. That's correct. So it is loading the correct address. It's pointing to this guy right here. Right? Everyone's happy. So that's actually fine. I think. So that should be loaded into R8. And then we're ready to dispatch. We go in here. We load out of R8 RSP plus 18, right? Which should now point to our where we're going to put our string, right? So OX73EECC0 is going to be a pointer to the string, right? Because it's an R8 is just a pointer to it. So this is going to be a string star. And so it should be garbage right now. Let me do it. That's actually okay though, right? Because it's a pointer. This is way more work than we should be having to do, by the way, for just this little thing. This is crazy town. Allergy season. Looking at that, right, it moved the pointer at RSP plus 18, but RSP plus 18 actually is that value, right? So it's actually loading out of R8, which was the pointer to the string that we wanted, right? EEFC0. It's taking that and it's putting it here. So that's actually just the pointer to the value, right? It's putting the pointer there. So really this is this, right? And there's our string. So that's fine. And then what happens? When we come down in here, and we're going to actually use this file name, which I guess is, kind of in here. When I say file name, it's actually total gobbledygook, right? So we can see that the file name is actually there just fine, because we tracked it all the way through. But either the debugger is confused because it's doing the same thing we initially did. It's actually looking at it as if it was just a pointer. You can see it right in there, instead of double dereferencing it, right? So now the question is, well, is it the compiler screwing up, or is it just the debugger not presenting us with the correct information? And so that question would be, where is it actually trying to do the copy from, right? ECX 50, that's going to be... That's going to be... What is that size? I don't know what is that size that it's actually doing the copy of. Because strings are definitely not 50 long, right? I mean, they're not even close. They're 10 long in hex. So I'm not sure what that's doing. And when we call getBuffer by name, we should have been passing this file name somewhere. Very peculiar. Very, very, very peculiar. So if we move RAX RDI, RCX RSI, ECX 50, oh, never mind. I see what the ECX 50 is. ECX 50 is for this jump, right? Because it's got this is actually calling off a pointer, so it's probably actually for that purpose, right? The ECX is probably going to get used later, if it does at all, which maybe it actually wouldn't. I don't know. Or if the ECX is used for this, then no, it wouldn't be. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. Where is the actual call? Here's the call, RAX plus 50. So no, I don't know why it moved the 50 in there. It is the 50, that is the offset for the call, but I don't know why they moved it into ECX. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but let's keep going and see if we can figure out whether the compiler actually just straight up admitted debug or not. So okay, here's the call site, and we know that it's got to pass the command context and the file name, right? So in here, let's see, we've got RAX, RCX, and our DX all getting loaded. We've got our RSP plus 30. The RSP plus 30, I don't know what that's actually going to be at. Let's take a look at what it actually is when we get there. So here we're copying RSI to RDI again, right? And what's actually in RSI? So we start off by trying to do the right thing. We're copying from the correct location of RSI to RDI, right? So that's actually, in theory, actually going to do the copy, right? So we go ahead and do the copy. And I'm going to actually snap this location as well. RDI. So it's OX73E80. So we do the copy. Blam. There we go. So now we've got yet another copy of this thing. And by the way, in case you can't tell, when you have optimizations turned off, the compiler generates a lot more stuff, right? None of this is necessary. You don't need this many copies of this thing. It's copying, copying, copying. They would not be doing so many copies if it were an optimized build, but that's neither here nor there. So then we're going to load into R8. We're loading RSP. So what's R8? R8 is that pointer. So we are passing a valid pointer. Unless R8 gets corrupted, we're in good shape. So let's find out. Okay. So there is no compiler bug. There's just a debugger bug, basically. Instead of looking at this file name, we're not actually able... the Visual Studio is just confused, right? It's not able to understand the debug information here, apparently. So it's just like, I don't know, man. This is what I thought it was. But it's actually off by 1 when you do file name. It's just confused. But we tracked it through the debugger, so we know that we are actually passing the correct file name here. So in theory, this should have worked, right? And so, very, very long and circuitous false alarm. In case we needed another reason to dislike Visual Studio this evening, even its debugger, which is the only thing I actually use it for, totally failed us, because presumably that may be because now there's a mismatch between 2008 and 2013's compiler, so that it didn't understand the PDB right or something, and wasted even more of our time. Excellent. Microsoft, Visual Studio team, excelling as always. All right, so that was fantastic and awesome in tons of ways. And so now, at least we know all of the stuff's working properly, so really all we have to do is figure out how to implement this function, right? And this function is figuring out when the file exists or doesn't exist, because we don't really know how to do that yet. Now we have a function called directory has file, which we can pass the file name to, but we need to also tell it what directory we're looking in, I believe, if I remember correctly. So directory has file, right? It takes a directory and then a file name. Presumably it's like concatenating these two things together, and off you go. Okay. So in order to make that work, I think probably what we would want to do is say, okay, in general, when we call this function, maybe we'll pass the entire, like we can pass strings that are entirely built, maybe, so that it can check and find out. Or we can have you be able to pass the directory in as a separate thing. That would look like this, and maybe that's easier. I don't know. So if we wanted to do that, again, we don't really have to always pass that, so we can do like a make lit string here and just pass the dot, right? A directory that isn't anything in particular, and then, it should be fine. But the other thing we can do instead, the other thing that we can then do here is, I guess, pass this dir every time we're gonna come through here. And so I can just do something where we've got, that, basically. Forgot you can't really do that easily in Emacs. So we'll kill, and then we'll yank. So, cannot convert to from strings to... Okay, so I don't know why. It's kind of weird that app directory... I'm going to put that as a thing. Why does directory has file take a char star instead of a string? And I don't know. It's a good question. All right, so let's see. If we've got this, I think we can still pass just str. So that's not really a problem. And so let's see if that gets us into loadability here. Unhandled exception, access violation reading something. Well, what is the matter with that? So for some reason, it did not like that. But I don't really know why. I don't know what dir even is here, to be honest. Of course, now I know I can't trust the debugger. It's hard for me to really bother looking in it, but okay. So that string... So when we do app directory cd at dir, I guess that's the base dir that we're at, and then we're changing to this dir. So this is not really what we wanted. But either way, I don't know why that would have crashed, right? I don't know what would be crashy about that, because we're just passing, you know, maybe it's the fact that we're calling getActiveView on something that isn't existing. I'm not entirely sure. If we're in here, well, it looks though, it does look a bit like, it does look a bit like that is the string part that it's grumpy about. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know about that. But either way, this is also actually incorrect. So I'm not sure what this push directory thing... I don't know if there's a pop directory as well. I should probably look at what those functions actually do. So here's push directory. I don't know if there's a pop directory. Push memory, app directory, get hot. So if I push, how do I pop? Or do I not pop? Do I just, it just pushes it onto my memory stack and then it goes away? Maybe that's what's meant to happen. Not sure. So assuming that that's actually happening, that just gets me back the current directory, which I really don't care about at all. So I think this code is not necessary, unless I want to switch back to that directory, which I guess I probably do, because I probably don't want to change what directory we're running from, although maybe I do want to do that too, I don't know. So when I call directory cd, I guess the next question is, what does that actually do? Right? What does directory, and I don't know. Directory cd. So it looks like it just changes the directory by concatenating these two things together, I guess. It's like if I started here and then went to this path, what would I do? And so presumably you don't really need it for this. But I guess I do want to do it at the end, probably, after we're done, because I want to restore the current working directory potentially. So I think I want to do this, but I don't really know. So this is a bit of a not sure kind of a scenario. But either way, I don't know, because I can't quite make this part work exactly either. So what I want to do here is actually call this like old dir, and this is dir, I guess. Right? So it's more like that. And why is this an address of? That's another good question. Let's see what happens in here. Is it actually passing the address of a string? So it passes the address of the string, and then the relative path actually gets passed as just a char star. All right, so I guess it's confusing to me why some of these things are char stars and some of them aren't. Okay, so we got old dir here, we've got the dir here, so that would look like that. And then afterwards we can do the old dir. So that's actually at least correct now, I think. lit. There we go. So I think that's more correct now, although we still will presumably crash, and I'm not sure necessarily why. Okay, so this guy is like directory cd. I don't really know what I can do here. Can I do this? I don't know. I may well be misunderstanding these. Okay, so in the call stack, I'm going to come down here with that. And so the very first time I try to do it, I do get an access violation trying to look at what that file name is. Right? And I don't know, again, if that's because I will double check here just to make sure. String file name. There we go. Run in here. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to matter whether I build it this way or not. So we'll try one more way, which is that we make this outside. That's the most sort of protected way I could possibly be running that. I just want to make sure there isn't some intervening thing here. Yeah. So I'm clearly still not really doing this right, and I'm not sure what is actually wrong with it. I think this function is structured correctly, so I'm just going to say we'll wait for Alan to tell us what we've done wrong. If, in fact, it's not just some wonky thing with Visual Studio, which at this point is totally a fair game. So that's basically it with that. Let's take a look at find corresponding file, because that one we need to do as well. And again, we probably can't, since we're not really able to call those functions, I'm not sure what we'll be able to do there exactly, but we can at least take a look. So here what happens is with find corresponding file, what I want to be able to do is switch between the H and the CPP file automatically, so I can just hit one key and go between them, which is kind of handy. So if I'm going to do find corresponding file, then what I need to do is I need to figure out whether, what kind of a file it is. Now, there was already some code for doing that, so I basically just put my own sort of version in after calling it. It's already in the other file. And then what I wanted to do is, after we figure out what kind of file it is, I'm going to pick what kinds of extensions to look for, right? And then if I find one of them, it'll load it. So what I need to do is, as I go through each extension, I want to see whether or not I've actually got it. So I need this guy to tell me whether I got it or not. So I'm going to pass it like so, right? Extensions. And I'm going to say that if I found it, I'm going to break, right? I'm going to stop looking after I find the extension, after I find a file with that extension. So if I can switch to it, I break. If I get to the end, I want to actually I probably want to create an actual file of that type. So if I get to here, and if I get to the extension index is the last one, right? So the extension index equals the extension count -1, basically, right? So if the next one would be the end, would break out of the loop. If that's the case, it's the last time through, then I want to create the file. Otherwise, don't create the file and break out. That's, I think, actually probably all there is to the code. The only difference is I have to actually make this guy say whether or not it found it. But that's pretty easy, right? Because we already pretty much know that. So we'll just say switched equals false. In here, we'll assume that the switch succeeded because it pretty much has to. In here, we know that the switch only succeeds if we actually found the file or did the creation, right? So that should probably do it. Now, what is this complaining about? Oh, right, we still have that directory situation. So when we actually switch to the file, presumably the file is a fully qualified path name, but I don't actually know if that's true. So let's double check in 4coder custom to see whether or not it actually is the case that the directory is baked in. I assume it must be because there's the file name, so I'm assuming it's fully qualified. I'm just assuming that's true. So at that point, we don't really have to pass anything else. So when we call switch to or load file, we should be able to say, oh wait, this isn't quite done yet either. This extension is we have to actually construct the changed version. So that has to happen here as well. So first of all, we have like what directory you're in, and then we have the file name. This part I don't know that we really want at all. I think this is just, we just want to not have anything there, right? And again, I don't really know. I'm still really confused about why things are taking two different things every time. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. So that part's really confusing, and maybe Alan can clue us in as to what's actually going on there. All right. So if I do this extension switching thing, what I essentially want to do is I want to take what I had before and I just want to switch the extension. So if I have the extension here, which I do, I basically want to like rebuild this string but with a different extension. And so there is a string library, but I don't really know how to use it. So that's a little bit tricky. But let's take a look and see if we can figure it out. It's probably the last thing we'll have a chance to do on the stream. Thanks to Microsoft taking basically all the time with their awesome licensing policies. So good. Fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and figure out what we can do here for that. If I have the extension, and I guess I need to create an extension len here because there isn't actually a variable for that. That should get rid of all the warnings except for this down here where we actually, I'm sorry, all the errors, except for the thing where we actually have to use the extension to build a new string. So now we know we know where the extension is. So we know we basically want to build a string that's everything up to the extension, but then instead of what was in the extension before, we're going to put in something new. And so that's not typically a particularly tough thing to do with a string library, but we don't know anything about the string library, so we're going to have to kind of figure that out. And I don't really know what to do here. So we'll probably have to do something. Oh, yawning. We'll probably have to do something where we like push a buffer that's the size that we actually need it to be. So, if I was to say take the extension part, this I suppose we should also have to check to see whether we actually ever found an extension. I assume it can return like 0, like no extension. But assuming we found an extension, then here what we would presumably do is create sort of the string that existed beforehand. We just need some memory to put it in. And so we need to know how big the string actually was to begin with, which we do, and then we need to just get that much memory. Now there was a push, right? There was this push concept, and so I think I can just do push memory and get myself some memory. So I think I can just do like new file name or test file name, and I can do a push memory, and I know how big the string was, right? Because I know the original file name length. And I know that I'm never going to append any extensions that are longer than 3, because I'm looking at them right here, right? So I pretty much know exactly how much space I would need at a maximum anyway. So, max extension length and max extension length is 3. So that's fine. But then I need to actually build the thing. And in order to do that, I need some way of like doing like a, honestly, I could probably just do this. Really no reason not to. I can just do that, and I can just say, okay, whatever the original one was, I can just truncate it and then put on my new extension, right? So I should be able to do like file name stem, and then extensions with my extension. That actually should be fine. And so if I do that, all I need to do is get the file name stem, and the file name stem is really just, I guess, file name stem. The file name stem is just the original buffer, right? It's file name. Although now that I think about it, we never get our own copy of this, did we? So we do need to actually copy it. Never mind. I take it back. I take it all back. So what I need to do here is I need to do something to copy my string in. I was going to do something a little cleverer, but then I didn't. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff here, and I don't know what it does, but I can probably guess. So there's matching, there's finding, here's a copy. I mean, I guess a copy fast unsafe seems reasonable, let's say. Although I don't know, it doesn't take a length. So I really want this. I think I want that. I want copy fast unsafe. I want to put this into my test file name. And this one I can really just do first. So I can do copy fast unsafe, and I can do like stem length here, kind of a thing. So if I do string file name stem, and that's just going to be make string, which is extension. I don't know if I can say 0. I hope I can, because it's not supposed to use any memory. So I'm just going to say make a string. The string is the buffer file name, like so. And the buffer file name, wherever we found the extension, we know that's how long it is, right? I'm going to take where the extension was and subtract the beginning of the string. That gives me how long it was. So now I've got the file name stem. Then I can copy my stuff in there and say, all right, copy into there this file name stem. And then we've got it. So then at that point, I should be able to, once we get to here, do appends. I guess, I don't know what this does, but I can probably just do this, append, maybe, I don't know. I don't know exactly how this would go. Looks like append needs to keep the count. See, I feel like there's a better way to do this, because this would actually be keeping the count for me as well. So what I really need to do is there's got to be a function that pushes a string. And that's what I really need to do. Because if I did that, then it would just work, right? So that should be possible. Helper, push string, push. Like, I just need something that does, like, it pushes a string. All right, so let's pretend I knew what I was doing. What if I did this? String, test file name, and then I say, okay, make a string. The string is a push memory, and it's that max extension length, whatever, right? So I'm going to do a push memory, and I'm going to pass it everything. And then for the size, it's whatever the size actually was, is its memory size. Does that make a string? I hope. I don't know. Maybe it does. So if that made our string, then from there, I feel like we could do a thing where we go, okay, test file name. We just want to go ahead and do append. So on the test file name, we want to append our file name stem. And then we want to append, the dot. And then we want to append our extensions. Right? So I don't know. That's probably correct. Like int space. Let's call this. And we got to cast it, because that looks like those don't take size t's. Space. Oops, not that one. I meant that one. There we go. That. And then here, this one is just going to be a cast to an int as well. All right. Grr. Okay. So how do these guys work? I assume these guys take addresses of these things, and then at the end we just pass our test file name. So I have no idea if that's right. I just hope that it is. I also never spell file name the same in any two places. It's just like a rule. But I think that's good. And this has to return whether it's switched or not. And let's see. Potential extensions used. All right, fine. So there we go. So I think that does the find corresponding file. I assume that it will crash because our string stuff seems to have been crashing, which doesn't seem to be because of us necessarily, but I'm not sure what exactly it is because of. So we might kick that over to Alan since he has the full source code and can tell us what's going on. And he can also run an actual copy of Visual Studio. Wouldn't that be nice? So, all right, let's see what happens if we run this. We'll step through it. And we'll see. I don't know how much we can actually view, of course, but we'll try. So here we go. Let's load 4coder custom.h. And then if I want to switch to the other buffer, I come in here and I call it, and here we are. So we try to get the extension. Again, I don't know. Our watch window is highly suspect at this point, so don't believe everything you read. The extension looks correct, though, because that is an H file. That is what we thought. So that's possibly correct. Is H is true, is CPP is false, is INL. So those all worked correctly. We then know that we should set the extensions to that set, which is the C extensions, because it's an H file, so we want to look at those. So now we're going to make our test file name. So our file name stem is 4coder custom.h. There it is. And we know that it should only be part of the way through it, which it either is or isn't. So 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Exactly right. So we built that one, and then our test file name should have nothing in it, but it should have space, which is correct. So we have 0, and then we've got our space, so that's all good. We go through here, and let's see what we produce for our test file name. We produced that, and then we got an extra dot. So it looks like the extension is pointing after the dot. That makes sense. So that's actually okay. We just don't need the dot. So that's actually a little bit bogus what we did there. But it looks like everything else is correct. So we're all good. So we don't need to do anything other than that. All right. Success. So yeah. I don't know if it'll actually work though, because I think we'll crash. Like I said, because as soon as we call switch to buffer, we seem to crash, and I don't know why. So if we load 4coder custom.h, and then we say we want to switch to the corresponding buffer, here we are. Yeah, and we get that crash. So I think I just fundamentally, either I just don't understand what's supposed to be happening with those, or we've got some weirdness happening with Visual Studio's compiler, or who knows what. But everything else seems to work okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's call it for now. I'm going to send all this over to Alan. Like I'm gonna send all this code over to him in case he wants to play with it. But for now, I would say that's about it. We didn't quite get through absolutely everything I wanted. I would like to just have done these two. So I still would like to do those two. Maybe we'll do those Monday. But we're in pretty good shape. We're not quite there yet. Like I think switching to 4coder at this point will be a little rough because there's a couple things missing that we really need, like the replacement. But assuming that the rest of the stuff gets ironed out, and we do implement these two, it could happen. It could happen. I feel like iMenu is also going to be something that I'm going to want, but it really only requires that parsing, the ability to prompt. So who knows? Maybe that can happen. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, oh, someone was saying on the chat stream there that you can do -W as full screen. Oh, nice. Sweet. That's pretty cool. You should just go full pull though and get rid of the title bar. Just like use the code from Handmade Hero that gets rid of the title bar. So like full screen. All right. Anyway, I guess that's really all there is to say. So I'll go ahead and shut it down for today. I'm gonna send all that to Alan. We'll see where we're at. But we might be able to do it. We might finally get to switch to a different editor. It'd be pretty great. Who knows? Anyway, thanks everyone for joining me for another episode of Handmade Hero. If you want your own copy of 4coder, please do go. And $1 gets you the base version. $5 gets you the version with all the extension stuff. That's that API that I was using, and all the stuff that we build on stream. I'm gonna send to Alan for inclusion in 4coder later. However he wants to do that. He might want to rewrite it in the way that he wants it to work or whatever. But we'll get that out as well. So all that stuff will be good. So that's it. Thanks everyone for joining me. We will be back next week when we will try to actually start the transition over. And if we're lucky, by the end of next week, we will be ready to resume Handmade Hero coding using 4coder, which again, super double beta, triple alpha software. So we're going to encounter some bumps along the way. Like that's not even a question, but we'll give it a shot. Until then, have a good weekend coding, everyone. And check the tweet bot for the schedule. That's about it, and I will see you guys on the internet between now and then. Take it easy, everyone.